Well, this is all about personal mastery. And on page 14 in the training manual begins the journey, the adventure into personal mastery. One of the things I asked everybody to do last night was somewhere in this booklet, maybe just on the inside of the front cover, to gauge your sense of personal mastery. Because we want to gauge it at the end of today, we want to gauge it at the end of tomorrow, just to sense and recognize the ongoing development of those inter-executive states of mind that we have, so that as we become more intentional, as we access our internal personal genius and develop more personal mastery, we can take these secrets and move in that direction. Well, last night we played around with, well, what does personal mastery mean? And you may have numerous definitions for personal mastery for yourself. For me, it's the ability to feel like I'm in control of my brain. It's my brain, and I can run it any way I want to run it. Personal mastery is the ability to manage my emotions so that I have them rather than they having me. Personal mastery for me is being able to be in control of my speech, to saying the things I want to say, being able to back up and come at it again, having that flexibility as I calibrate to see that the response I'm getting is the response I want. That gives me a sense of personal mastery. Personal mastery is the ability to take the intentions that I have in the back of my mind and make them real in the front of my life so that I can get myself to do the things I want to do. Most of us know a lot more than we do. The reverse would be terrible. So it is good that you know more than you can actually do, because then that enables us to stretch and push to new limits and new powers of expression. But sometimes I know a whole lot more than I can get myself to do. And so personal mastery for me is the ability to take from mind and put it into muscle and to let it be my way of moving through the world so that I can have the health and the relationships and the experiences and the well-beingness that I want to do. Then that gives me congruence. For me, that's part of personal mastery. Feeling congruent, feeling whole, feeling like I have the right just to be authentic and be who I am. And while I care about what other people think, that's not the most driving influence of my life. I want to interact and find the people who we can do win-win relationships with and collaborate and have a lot of fun. But I'm not going to go around placating, making their judgment the dominating frame of reference for me. So congruence is being authentic, being able to be assertive, being able to take the ups and downs, the bounces of life, bounce back, being proactive. What for you is personal mastery? Well, part of what we're going to be working on is the ability to customize personal mastery for yourself. So that if it's courage, we're going to build up some Gestalt states of courage. If it's seeing opportunities and having vision and being creative, or if it is making things work and being procedural and being able to make processes work. So whatever personal mastery is for you. We've got 13 secrets of personal mastery. We're going to go through those secrets and utilize those secrets and do some patterns so that the secrets can become our principles for mastering ourselves and our mind, our emotions, our actions, and our speech. So that's the vision of personal mastery. How much personal mastery do you have now? Can you get yourself to eat the way that you know you want to eat? The health habits. Can you get yourself to do the health habits that you know you need and want? Whether it's exercise or relaxing or taking a break or spending time with the people that's important to you. So personal mastery. Personal mastery is having a sense of, I've got lots of ideas. My mind is rich. I have lots of thought balls. And I'm not scared of them. And I welcome them into the court of my mind. I play with them. And I massage them. And I have the ability to live with chaos comfortably. If my sense of mastery in life is dependent on me controlling what's going on outside, I think that's a great formula for disempowerment rather than empowerment. This morning we're going to do two real dynamic exercises. I mean, they're really dynamic. They're stand up when we do the exercises, stand up and really get into the neurology of them. we're going to do an ownership exercise, and then we're going to, which is part of the power zone, and then we're going to do the meta-yesing and meta-knowing. This afternoon we'll calm down a little bit and we'll organize it and structure it as we access our intentional self and taking an intentional stance toward life. So that we move very intentionally. And we'll end today, at the end of this afternoon, with gestalting. We're going to do some gestalting exercises. Gestalting in the sense of creating these larger meta-state gestalt experiences of courage and seeing opportunities and that kind of thing. Tomorrow we're going to focus on the genius pattern and the focus pattern and alignment and mind and muscle and implementation. Tomorrow morning the whole focus will be on implementing, making it practical, having the ability to translate from mind to muscle. So we're going to do some mind muscling exercises, which are real installation ones. On page 14 as we begin, personal mastery begins with something that's so simple it's easy to dismiss and say, oh, I know that. It is so simple, and that is that your thoughts operate as neurolinguistic programs. The power of thought, of representation, of sights and sounds and sensations and smells and words operate as neurolinguistic programs. Most of us know, well, what you think determines who you are. But it's even more powerful, more profound than that. And every higher level of mind is going to be based on this principle. So that as we move from our representational screen of representation, as we track and map the details and facts of the world, we're going to take the same stuff, thought, images, sights, sounds, words, sensations, smells, tastes, and we're going to track them layer after layer after layer on the layers. So the first secret of personal mastery, and this is where NLP begins, as we learn to run our own brain and control our own consciousness and our own states. This gives us the beginning of state management. What's on your mind? How are you representing it? How could you represent it so that it'd be more dramatic, more powerful, more intense, or less intense, less compelling, moving it away? So being able to control the representational reality of our lives. That's secret number one. On page 15 at the top, the quality of your life is dependent upon this. The quality of your life is a function of quality of your state. There can be no other. And I've driven that into my consciousness as one of my meta frames. The quality of my life is the quality of my representations. How am I representing things? What's the quality of my internal voice? How close are my pictures? What words am I saying? So the quality of my life is the quality of my representations. We've done some state accessing and application and anchoring, and so that's the whole state management process. And so personal mastery by means of state accessing is what's on 16 and a few pages thereafter. Personal mastery secret number 2 is on page 26. Mastery lies in discovering the higher states. And in these higher states, these are the executive functions. So be careful of what thought you bring back to bear upon you, because it's going to set a frame. And as it sets a frame, it is also executive function. It is going to start controlling. If we bring joy of our learning, then we're going to have joyful learning. And joy and delight is going to permeate and coalesce into the learning. So it's going to operate as an executive function. What thoughts and feelings have you brought back to bear upon yourself? This is the meta-statement question, and I think page 28, a whole series of questions, real personal questions to customize this. What are some of the higher states, the executive states that you never leave home without? One of the things we experience every single day of our lives, if you're doing anything significant, is criticism. What thought or feeling do you have when someone criticizes you? Be careful what thoughts you bring back upon that experience of being criticized is going to set an executive function. And it's going to serve you well, or it's going to put you into some unresourceful places. Hopefully, you have excitement and wonder about criticism. Hopefully you set a frame up, hey, it's not criticism, just feedback. Hopefully it means nothing about you, because I'm more than criticism. So whatever thought and feeling you bring about criticism is going to set an executive function. Same thing applies for everything else in life. Because our executive levels of mind, as we move up the levels, what thoughts and feelings we set about other ones is going to set the frame. What meta frames currently govern your experiences, organize your everyday experiences. Do they serve you well? Do they help you to achieve the things you want to achieve in terms of personal mastery? Do you experience the kind and quality of experience you desire? One of the secrets of this second secret is that every time we do bring thoughts and feelings to bear upon ourselves, it not only sets that executive function, it textures and qualifies life. What is the quality of your anger? Is a question that fleshes out the executive levels. If my anger is calm anger, thoughtful anger, then that qualifies my anger. If my anger is insulting anger, put down anger, then that qualifies my anger. Raging anger, stressful anger, intolerant anger, dogmatic anger, or if it's respectful. So the higher levels is going to qualify. So what is the quality of your learning? What's the quality of your confidence? What's the quality of your sense of being assertive? So whatever state you pick out, and we ask that quality question, what is the quality, what is the properties of? Now we've got some of those executive functions. And so do you experience the kind of quality of experience that you want to have? So pick any primary experience. Pick exercise. What's the quality of your exercise? Hesitating? Sweating exercise? So there's the expression of the state. Well, what's the frame of the state? What's the quality and texture? What's the executive frame of mind that you have about that? So the thoughts and feelings we bring to bear upon our health, our well-being, our relationships, the experiences we have in them is going to identify those levels. So here are some of the questions that flesh out the first level of the executive mind. On page 29, we have the first and most basic metastating diagram. And given that every one of you have looked at this and been metastated, this should be fairly obvious now as how we go up the levels and we keep bringing back thoughts and feelings to whatever state. We have a state about that state. And after a while, after repetition and habituation, it will coalesce, it will collapse down to where it is so infiltrated with a higher level that it's like one state. It functions like a primary state again. And so mind keeps flipping to a higher level and having thoughts about that, and beliefs about that, and values about that. And then we start bringing thoughts of, this says something about who I am. And then we have beliefs about our identity, and then we value that, and so it goes on and on and on. And as the higher levels keep weighing down, it keeps coalescing the lower levels. Teasing out that structure is what we do here as we pull out that structure, but we also build up these levels. We're going to be doing that this morning as we bring some levels to bear upon ourselves. So this is the bringing to bear process as we set these frames. And while we tease it out and create a linear structure like this is very limited in numerous ways because it is a flat process, but it gives us that sense of what we're doing when we do the meditative process. Secret number 3, and this flows from the second one, it's on the next page 30. Our reflective consciousness enables us to always layer yet another level upon our model of the world. A moment ago we talked about personal mastery and what that means to you. Go inside for a moment and sense your masterful self and that sense of personal mastery. What would it be like if you had all the sense of personal mastery that you could have? What would it be like if you had all the personal mastery you could have? Just be with that thought and that feeling for a moment. Do you like that? Oop, I just meditated you. Do you like that? Would you want that? Oops, another meditation. So we can bring thoughts and feelings of liking, desiring. Have you chosen to develop your personal mastery? So we can bring that thought and feeling of decision, a choice. Have you chosen to make that your way of life, to develop all the personal mastery you can? What happens to the state, even if it's not a present state yet, having that sense of full personal mastery, what happens to the state when I ask, do you like that? Do you want that? Have you decided to make this your way of being in the world? 3 simple questions. I've told you nothing, but I've invited you to go to a higher executive level. You have just met your executive. It's a fairly high level executive. So now let's look at that executive. Welcome that executive. There's a part of your mind that makes choices. There's a part of your mind that chooses to turn yourself in this direction. Notice what happens when you become aware. Have you decided to make this your way of being in the world, become more masterful in your own person? Are you aligned with that inner executive? Do you trust that inner executive? Now, sometimes our inner executives, they've messed up and we've gotten into a bad relationship with them. If your inner executive, if you're not in a good alignment, maybe an apology is well placed at this moment. Would it be time to apologize to that inner executive? And an inner executive level of mind is only as good as the information we've given that level of mind. So sometimes we need to bring resources to bear. What resource would you like to bring to bear upon your executive level of mind, that part of your mind that makes decisions, that turns the central part of who you are and decides on pathways? What resource? Patience? Information gathering? Reality testing? Proactivity? Gentleness? Patience? What would you like to bring to bear on your executive that would make your executive level a smarter, wiser, more competent executive? Getting acquainted with the boss. Being able to go to the boss gives us the ability now to do a top-down approach to personal mastery. We can start with the boss. We can give the boss the kind of resources and skills and expertise, playfulness, likeness, whatever we need to give that boss so that we can move. So that was the exercise on page 31. Identifying the decision-making part of our mind at a higher level, and then out-framing that executive with even newer and higher parts. Page 31 is entitled Awakening the Inner Executive. We not only want to awaken it, to become aware of, there's a part of me that turns the central part of who I am and makes decisions and creates pathways, but to own it. Ownership seems to me to start creating this new gestalt of real personal mastery. I own the fact that I own my ability to control my representations, to control the signaling, to control my physiology. And when I own that inner executive, then it creates that sense of being in control and that personal mastery. That's what we're going to do in just a few minutes. So on page 32, this is where we're going to start today. developing the executive powers. Now, every once in a while, just like any business, somebody's promoted to a level of incompetence. So you might have an executive who isn't skilled enough to handle the executive functions of setting policies, and making decisions, and gathering information. So we may need to develop the inner executive. This is executive development. Because you're an executive over your own consciousness. So on page 32, secret number 4, a strong sense of vitality and mastery emerges from ownership of our basic neurolinguistic powers. Well, secret number 1 is that thoughts create our neurolinguistic programs and powers. So a physical and mental sense of vitality, being alive, I think those are the gestalts. Alive, vital, and optimistic comes from owning, accepting, appreciating, immersing ourselves into, again, our basic powers of mind, emotion, speech, and behavior. So you can see the diagram there on that page that we've taken this model here, and at the primary level, we've identified 4 basic powers: mind and emotion, thought and behavior, and suggested that this is the power zone. And what we want to do is to power up with this power zone to own these basic powers, because the sense of vitality and mastery is going to come from ownership of these 4 basic powers. It is so simple that it's easy to dismiss this. Well, of course they're my thoughts. Of course they're my emotions. But then it's easy to feel like, well, Ash makes me feel really angry when he talks to me that way. And to presuppose that outside forces control my internal world. So if this is the power zone, this is the place where I have total ability to respond. So the word power here is another word for response. And I'm not talking about response ability or response power in terms of this power zone. And when I own it fully and completely, recognizing that, yes, these are my thoughts, and truly, you cannot make me think thoughts. You can invite me and evoke and stimulate and suggest, but really it's my power to decide what to represent and how to represent it, and truly these are my emotions. Once I claim them as mine and own them fully and completely, then I can power up in this power zone. Stephen Covey talks about a zone of influence and a zone of concern. And one of the things he says is that when I take my thoughts and feelings and want to control your power zone, I disempower myself. Because that's your power zone. Because I can't really make you think anything or make you feel anything or make you say anything unless I wrestle you to the ground and inject you with some drug-altering chemicals. So being able to own our power zone is what we want to do. So we've got this power zone. The power zone of mind involves thinking, evaluating, believing, valuing, understanding. That of emotion covers all the emotions: caring, valuing, somatizing, putting our thoughts into our body. Speaking involves language and symbolizing and narrating and storytelling and all the symbolizations that we do. Behavior involves acting, relating, incorporating, expressing, gesturing. So this is our power zone. In NLP we talk about a circle of excellence. This morning we're going to talk about circle of power. And getting that sense of power. Because everything at the higher levels is going to come from this power zone. That's why the neurology at the primary level is going to be what sets the higher frames. So we need to really power up at this basic level. So you can see we've got 2 private powers and 2 public powers. The 2 public powers that I give to you is speech and behavior. It's really the only thing I can give you. It's the only thing you can give me. It's the only thing we have to give to each other. Because really, speech, mind and emotion is deep inside, and you can only know my mind by how I'm talking and acting and responding and somatizing and all the analog behaviors. And you can know the emotions through those same ways. So these are the expressions of the state, and these are the 2 variables that put me into the state and that drive my talk and my behavior. So this is the power zone there at the bottom of 32. This also helps to separate, if I'm responsible for these 4 powers, then in relationship with anybody else and their power zone, mind and emotion, speech and behavior, then what we give to each other defines relationship. That's what's on the next page there, that distinguishing 2 and 4. Responsibility for, accountability. Responsibility to, relationship. So I can define any relationship in terms of how do we talk to each other? How do we act toward each other? What are the specific, I can just make a list of specific ways that we talk and act. And that's what relationship is. Do I want you to talk that way to me? How do you want me to talk to you? How do you want me to talk to you when I'm stressed, when I'm playful? What are acceptable ways of talking? What are acceptable ways of behaving? How else do you want me to act? That's what we give to each other. That's relationship. And that's what we negotiate. And then speech and mind and emotion is what we're responsible for, and I'm responsible while I give to you. So that starts separating accountability and relationship. I put page 34 in there as a diagram between the world of reactivity, in which we're all born, that's where we all start, totally reactive. And once we become really empowered in our power zone, then we move to the world of proactivity. You can see the distinctions there between the stimulus-response world. Stimulus, she stuck her tongue out at me. I had to hit her. Stimulus-response. And that's the world of the primitive mind, the reactionary mind, the victimization world of disempowerment. When I talk this way, you make me, you need to, you have to. So the world of disempowerment, the world of reactivity that we're all born in, and as we move up that responsibility continuum to the world of proactivity, then we feel like I'm in charge of my life. It's not stimulus response, it's stimulus, mind, response. There's that mindfulness by which I can process information. So she stuck her tongue out at me. She must be having a bad day. Has nothing to do with me. It's her tongue. And I refuse to personalize that tongue. So I can start sorting and separating, and I can be thinking and moving into that moment of proactivity. This is empowerment. This is taking charge of my life, and my language change. I feel strange and upset and wondering why you're giving me that sticking at your tongue. And now I can talk about, I feel distressed about that. Would you do this for me? The whole language changes into very assertive. So that responsibility continuum. So what we want to do is the exercise on page 35, the executive decision for vitality. The first decision from our executive level of mind is the decision to own our powers fully and completely. I've told this many times, and I suppose it'd be good to tell it. Some of you haven't heard it, so I'm going to tell it again. I had a contract in the state of Colorado with the Department of Corrections and worked with a bunch of boys in a lockup house who were all there for misdemeanor crimes and felonies for violence. And so the process was anger control. And I wrote a little creed, and the creed is nobody can make me angry. Raise your hands and say this now. Pledge to this creed. Nobody can make me angry. My anger is my own. Well, of course, none of them believed it. And from time to time, they would say to each other or say to me, you make me really angry. Really? I make you angry? I've got that much control? You're my puppet? I pull your strings? I know your keyboard? I make you angry? What power I have! Of course, this was such a come on that they would say, no, you can't. I would turn it around and say, you can't make me angry. And they say, well, we're not allowed to cuss in this. Like, okay, the next 5 minutes you cuss. Say anything you want to. You can come up as close as, but no hitting, but you can put your fist in my face. And so I'd have some comers. You mother. And they would carry on, and I'd go, no, I'm not angry. You didn't do it. You're not, aren't you man enough? Is that all you can do? And they said, well, this isn't real. And I said, oh, so you want to excuse yourself that you can't make me angry, you don't have enough power because this is not real. And so we would play with that to make a point that it's my response zone. When one of them would give the finger to somebody else across the room and they would get upset and throw a piece of paper across the room and they carry on this way and say, well, he makes me so angry, so you're his puppet now. You just gave all your power away. You have no power in your power zone. Your response power is just depleted. And that was my way of just moving toward this response zone. So what we want to do is to own our response zone fully and completely, because ownership of it, seems to me, will bring forth this emergent property of a sense of, I'm in control of my life. So that we have a sense of boundaries. And we're going to work on the sense of boundaries so that events occur, words are said, expressions are given, things occur, and I've got the ability to control my response to the world. It's my response power. Who's ready to do this as an exercise? Somebody I haven't worked with this process, that I'll put you through this exercise. Cool. The ones we're going to do today seem to me to be real important to do standing up to get full expression of neurology. So let me just have you take a place and you just put out your future wherever it is. And it seems to me that the best way to do this process is to do it from a standpoint of your sense of territory. Most of us have our proxemics, our sense of personal space. So gesture out for yourself your sense of personal space. Most of us about 18 inches, but yours may be further. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is just to notice, with your executive mind that makes decisions, just notice your thoughts in your mind. You think, well, you're a thinker. You can see and process and realize you've got the power to think. You're more than your thoughts. That thoughts is one of your powers. Just notice that, recognize that, appreciate that. Is that easy to welcome? Yes, sir. So from your executive level of mind, just welcome in the power of thought, consciousness, cognition. From your thoughts come emotions. You're an emoter. You can emote. You can be happy and ecstatic and full of wonder and awe. And you can be afraid, and you can be angry, you can be sad. Full range of all the emotions that make us who we are as human beings. As an emoter. You're more than your emotions. You're an emoter. Just notice your emotions and how you express your emotions. And notice how easy from your executive level you can welcome them in. Appreciate my emotions. I can respond to the world with emotions. I can respond to the world with my mind. I can respond to the world with emotions. And as I think and feel, I can say. You've got a voice. You've got a vocal cords. So own your voice. Power. So you can say what's on your mind and what's in your heart. You can express your internal reality, your map of the world. You can just say so. Yes. So notice and welcome in and appreciate your linguistic powers. Your powers to describe, to articulate, to explore, to question, to doubt, to assert, to debate, to negotiate. All the things you can do with words. Power, words, language and symbols, math, diagrams. Love, forgiveness, integrity, awareness, health, wisdom, wealth, power, thankfulness, and with speech, you can act. You've got arms and chest and legs and movement, and you can respond to the world with movement. You can move toward the things you want to. You can move away from the things that you don't. You can take a stance. grace. So just use your arms for a moment just to reclaim the power and refresh the power of expression.
Yes. Love. Happy. Okay. Life. Awesome.
So just enjoy the circle of your power.
The circle
Of your power. Feeling the power, sensing how it can vibrate out. Because you've got two ways of vibrating it out, through speech and language and through expression.
and I feel yours and others.
What I'd like you to do is to think about something that is really special of yours, something that is so personal that every fiber in your being, in your mind, in your emotions can say fully, completely, mine. So you got something in mind? Absolutely. Okay. So just notice the feeling of mine.
Mine.
Nobody else. It belongs to nobody else. It's mine. Okay. Bring this feeling of mine. Is this about an 8 or 9?
Up there.
Up there. The feeling of mine to your mind and emotions and speech and behavior.
Mine.
Okay. Just feel that. Let it transform. Notice as you move through the world now, my thinking, my feeling, my speaking, my expression, mine.
And that is resources as needed to have control over personal mastery in my life.
So does that settle well?
That settles everything.
Okay.
Just flows.
Okay. Bring the feeling of acceptance and appreciation of mine, of your powers. I appreciate and celebrate. I can even celebrate this ownership of my powers.
Awesome.
Okay. Now, we don't want this to go to our heads too much, so let's bring just a tad of wonderful fallibility.
Yes.
Because I always misspeak, I always misthink, and I always misfeel, and I always misbehave. Because my fallibility is part of it. And it's wonderful fallibility. It's wonderful to be fallible. So bring wonderful human beingness to my celebration of my ownership of my powers. Okay.
All.
That's all.
And it's all.
Okay.
Emphasis on the right words.
If you had this fully and completely in the way you walk across a room, give me the walk of wonderful celebration of ownership of your power zone.
Back to my chicken.
Back to you.
Thank you. And it's strong.
So here's what we're going to do as far as a diagram. I changed the exercise what we had, and this is how we want to do it. We'll start with the power zone, and the process is just to power up. Power up by using your neurolinguistic thoughts and powers to recognize my mind, my emotions, my speech, and my behavior, and just amplify that until you have a sense of real strength of these 4 basic responses. Once you do, then using these 4, with reference to something that you can truly call mine, bring that sense of ownership to bear so that you'll outline that with ownership. Mine. This will amplify that sense of power, and it'll create boundaries. Mine and not mine. Now, every once in a while, someone has difficulty doing that, so you might want to think of something small, simple, like my toothbrush, my underwear. Mine! My kidney. Something small, simple, just to get that, the neurology of mind. Some of us have been, we've been punished, it's been kicked out of us, just like playfulness sometimes is kicked out. Like, we're not supposed to own anything. Well, this is that sense of ownership, and when I own it fully and completely, I think that the start will be responsibility. Now we want to bring celebration. I'd like you to celebrate that. You may do that with appreciation or with acceptance, but just appreciate the fact that you have a right, and you deserve. You're mine. your emotions, your speech, your behavior. So just celebrate that. And wonderful fallibility. And that'll temper it with a sense that I can be real with this. I don't have to act like I'm perfect in the way I think or feel or speak or behave. I'm not going for flawless, godlike infallibility. I'm going for just wonderful fallibility. Human. Now, you may want to bring, if for you, humility works here, or patience, or kindness, or gentleness. For me, wonderful fallibility is the thing that once I embrace that, then it helps to permeate the celebration of my ownership of my power zone. And the emergence will be a sense of robustness and zest, and the right to be who you are, and to have that power zone, and just to speak and act and behave in ways true and authentic to who you are. So, that's what we'll do. The exercise is on 35. And this will be the basic structure of it. As you know how just to take a thought and a feeling and bring it to bear, make sure it's strong, bring it to bear, take a moment, just enjoy the transformation. Notice how this sense of ownership transforms your mind, the way you're thinking and feeling. You may want to then do some future pacing by imagine something occurring out there that you're not too pleased with. But you know that you have the power to respond to your way of thinking, your feeling, your speaking, your behaving, so that you can respond effectively and appropriately. So, with that, we'll break into groups of 3, and we'll just coach each other through this, and we'll spend 30 minutes, and I want to hear some zest from the groups. Mine! Will be the vote. Okay. We will reconvene at 11:15. So we want to go through this fairly quickly. Don't need a lot of talking on this one. Experience it, feel it,